evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Sunday evening edition of Authors Up. We have an edition every night, but we don't. But Sunday is our favorite place to be. You hear us say it every week. We are glad to be here and glad that you are joining us wherever you are joining us from. And I would like for the other ladies in the house to welcome you in their own way. How are you doing, Victoria? And how are you doing, Ruth?
Doing pretty good. Welcome, everybody. Hello, guys. Mwah, mwah.
I am well tonight. Still got a little bit of cough, but doing better. And yes. And I'm happy to be here. Happy to welcome all our guests. Guests.
Well, we have a really exciting book, and exciting is probably not the word for it. Thought-provoking, I will say that.
Yes, it's still exciting. We'll talk about it. But it's exciting just to know the process, how he came up with the concept, how he did it all. That always excites me.
You're jumping the gun there.
I know.
Okay.
Well, we have an exciting guest, and he has an exciting story to tell us about the book that he has written. We are very anxious to get to him and just kind of dig a little deeper into his book and into how it came to be, and just let him read some of it to us, because we're getting spoiled. We're just really enjoying having the authors read to us passages from the work that they feel are representative of what they've done and what they're trying to say to us. So we are just glad for that. But we're going to start the way we usually do on Sunday evenings, and that is with our week in review. We're going to rotate. I think I'm going to go first tonight, and then Victoria, and then Ruth. My week in review is not a lot. Didn't have a lot going on last week. Working on some things, or working on some kind of ad type of things, and changing some logos around, and doing a little bit of different branding and all that kind of good stuff. Found out about more family connections, which was very interesting. My cousins have started doing a family prayer on Thursday evenings. As a matter of fact, right after When Life Speaks. And I have many ministers in the family, and a lot of people who the side of my family that my cousins are on are all big families, like 9 kids and lots of multiples and all of that. My family was my mom, my dad, me, and my sister. So we were just kind of this little nucleus, most of the class picture, But I found out that I have a cousin who has a church in High Point.
Oh,
okay.
Where my goddaughters live now is in High Point. So I thought, this is a small world, and I think I'm going to attempt one day to reach out to him and maybe visit his church and connect in some way.
That'll be cool.
Real nice.
A lot. Every week it seems like I find another. What do I want to say? Another branch of the tree. Branch of the trees. Yeah. So it's kind of fun. Kind of fun getting to know new people. And I think I had shared with you all one week that we found a cousin that Lynn and he and his wife have been working together in ministry as volunteers at the same church, but didn't know relate.
That's great.
Small world.
She came home and looked him up on Facebook, and the first 5 people she saw on his page, she was going, "That's my cousin. That's my cousin. Wait, Oh, that's my cousin too.
You know what? That is interesting though, because my job, at my last job, I worked with two ladies. One was white, one was black, two different states. And they found out that they have a cousin in common.
Oh,
so
wow.
Technically, now they're cousins.
Wow.
So, and right there, they work right across from each other, same cubicle. So I'm like, okay, weirder things have happened, but it's like you said, it is a small world. We think in terms of mileage, but in terms of DNA and humankind
and our connection, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And now with all the technology, it's so we don't have an excuse anymore.
No, we don't.
Well, I didn't know this person or that person, because you can get to know them very, very, very quickly. Very quickly. So that's kind of where my week was heading. What about you, Victoria?
Well, I think I would say the same thing. It's not a whole lot happened. It was a typical week. Well, that's not exactly true. That's not exactly true. But it's not a lot I could share on the air. How about that? Just some personal things, and just all I can say is just relying on God to continue to guide me, in the best course of action. I'm going to be okay. I'm finding myself more of an empty nester as time is going on, and
it's great.
It just wasn't as expected. Let me just put it that way. It wasn't as expected. And so I've got to adjust now to some things. And some days is better than others. That's all I'm going to say. But I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay because I am busy. I'm busy. I've got my books. I've got you guys. I've got things I'm working on. I got my show. I had a very good show last week. So I'm keeping, active and trying not to think about what I don't have, but embrace what life is showing me now. And I'm really focused on that, not looking backwards, but looking forward. So I'm going to say I had a really good week. That's what I'm going to say. Had a good week.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
Oh, what about you?
I'm looking up, just to give you a heads up. I am looking at the calendar. I need to go back. At this point, I have exhausted every photo I have. Even when I texted my daughter yesterday, she's like, well, this is all I got. I'm like, that's enough. Just keep coming.
Keep coming.
So I need to go back up. At this point, it's a need. I just...
You hear that? You hear that, Andrea, right? It's a need.
It is a need.
She needs to go see the grandbaby so she can get some new pictures. You hear that, right?
All right. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I
got you, Ruth.
But I had an awesome surprise this week.
The book!
Yes!
Awesome!
Yay!
Yes, I am so excited. So that is the proof copy. It looks great. It is available for pre-order. That collects the first 13 chapters of the serial novel. And and I heard back from the artist too. So she is finishing up the cover for the third book, which means I need to get my stuff in order for books, for the covers for 4 and 5. So yes.
Good.
So I had that.
Can we see it again? Can we see it again? Real quick. Look, y'all. Look at the book. Get the book. It's beautiful.
Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you. So, yeah. So that was pretty much, that made my week. So
I was doing some rearranging, and I saw the original book. I have the original book on my shelf, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna have some new partners for you in crime over here after a while."
Yes, I am very excited. Yes.
Good.
Well, it's been a good week for everybody, and that's always good news. But it's about to get even better as we begin this upcoming week with having you all meet our author for the evening, and he can tell us a lot about his book, or as much as we can get him to tell us. Uh, Victoria, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about him through his bio?
I sure will. Eclectic is a word that aptly defines Roger Chiocchi. Chiocchi graduated from Ithaca College and then the Wharton School with distinction. He then rose through the ranks at mega agency Young and Rubicam to senior VP, where he ran the advertising campaigns for Advil, TWA, AT&T, and Sears. Remember the softer cider Sears campaign? Yeah, that was him, among others. He then went on to eventually become president of Y&R's subsidiary, the Lord Group, where he helped transition NYNEX to Bell Atlantic, then to Verizon, while bringing in new accounts like the Sports Authority, the Cayman Islands Department of Tourism, and HIP health plans. Throughout his life, he had a passion for writing. In his spare time, he wrote the fictional ghost story Mean Spirits, which rose to #1 in his genre on Amazon. He followed up with a work of nonfiction, Baby Boomer Bust, How the Generation of Promise Became the Generation of Panic, detailing the impact of the 2008-2009 recession on that generation. He went on to become a partner in Connecticut agency Brandloff, where he won awards as a copywriter on the agency's work for iUniverse and The Heavy Putter, along with other significant contributions. Chiocchi regards himself as a perpetual student, constantly scouring YouTube for lectures on astrophysics, quantum mechanics, and human consciousness, and whatever else suits his fancy. But why not? His appetite for knowledge is eclectic. After the break, it will be our pleasure to introduce you to our guest, Roger Chiocchi, and we're going to be talking about his book, The Bushy Ridge Militia. We'll be right back.
Hi, Roger. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
We are so happy to have you on the show, Roger. Thank you for coming tonight.
Yes.
All right. Tell us about your book, The Bushy. Okay,
Well,
my brain just blanked out. Sorry. Please tell us about your book.
Okay. The Bushy Ridge Militia.
Thank you. I forgot the word ridge.
So let me tell you a little backstory. I live in Connecticut, about a half hour at the time from Newtown, Sandy Hook School.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that day, I think it was December 14th, 2012. And I was working from home, as ad people frequently do these days. And it came on TV, this terrible shooting of, I think it was 26 in total. I remember watching Barack Obama go on TV and how sad he was. And it really affected me. It affected me because, not only because it was close, but I started thinking about those parents.
Right.
And actually, so that was December 14th. On Christmas Day, I took my daughter to Newtown, and there was sort of you couldn't get near the school, but there was sort of a makeshift memorial. And so I think we left some flowers there, if I remember correctly. So fast forward about 4 or 5 years, and Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, it was at Parkland, Florida, I think. Yeah. Another terrible situation, shooting. And they had a big town hall meeting about 4 or 5 days later. It was like in this big gymnasium or arena. And the senators were there. A representative from the NRA was there. You know, the entire student body and faculty was there. It was on CNN Live. Some of you may have seen it or clips from it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Q&A, a history teacher got up, and I think she directed this to the spokesperson from the NRA. And she said, what militia was that young man a part of? How was he well regulated? You know, obviously referring to the shooter.
Mm.
And to me, that just said, you know, there's a paradox going on here, because there are 27 words in the Second Amendment. None of them says an individual should have unmitigated access to guns. It is a right, it's not a privilege, but a right should be moderated, you know?
Right.
And the militia thing, I don't get it. But I did my homework. I like to learn, so it wasn't a hard thing for me to do. And the Second Amendment was written because at the time, if you remember from civics way back when, or high school history, that there were, when the country was coming together, there were the Federalists like Alexander Hamilton, who wanted a strong federal government. And then there were the Anti-Federalists, and they didn't want a strong federal government because they feared that a strong federal government could evolve back into a monarchy. And that's what they just got rid of.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the reasons for the idea of being able to form militias was in the event that the federal government became tyrannical, you could have neighborhood or community militias to fight tyranny from the federal government, or just defend your communities from anything, you know?
Right.
So that was the real reason, I mean, among other things too.
Yeah.
But that was one of the main reasons behind the Second Amendment. And over the years, it got, you know, misinterpreted, in my opinion. And finally, there was a big case called DC versus Heller. It was about being able to carry handguns in Washington, DC. And Justice Scalia wrote the opinion, and basically he said the first half doesn't count, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. He said that doesn't count, even though he was an originalist, which means he's supposed to interpret it as it was understood at the time. Okay, so I probably went on a little too long about that.
No,
It's okay. It's okay. We have to understand.
But so I had this idea. You know, I also saw on TV several times, you know, when parents, you know, after they get through all the stages of grief, they lobby their state legislature or federal legislature. And I saw a few times newsreel clips where they were trying to talk to the pro-gun legislators, and they walk right by. They're holding up pictures of their kids, and they walk right by, you know, like almost like catatons. So I said to myself, well, wouldn't it be interesting if the parents, after a mass shooting, lobbied Congress, you know, 3-4 months later, and the Speaker of the House, who controls what bills get voted on, refused to see them because he takes a lot of campaign money from the NRA or the gun lobby. And wouldn't it be interesting if, since they run into a brick wall, that they decide, because one of them's a lawyer and very familiar with constitutional law, they decide to form their own militia and take the the Speaker of the House hostage, make him watch video and still pictures of the morgue shots of the actual shooting, you know, the hallway camera, and then you know, until he is willing to take a bill to the floor. So they're not out to harm him, although they do have guns, but that's the essence of the story. And obviously they get captured, but they're able to keep them for 4 days, and they make their point. And then, they get convicted, I could tell you that, but it actually goes to the Supreme Court, and I won't tell you what happens there.
Okay,
That's right. You want them to get the book.
No, and I have to say, I think that the book kept me going because, you go into it, you understand this is a sensitive subject. This is something that, may be triggering for some people, but the way it's written, the way it's, the chunks, the
Oh,
Uh-oh. Okay.
They lost
Well, we don't know what happened to Ruth.
that's unusual.
I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, so the way it was written, and I apologize. The way it was written, it held your attention and it kept you going. And then you quickly realize that this is not going to be your typical story. Right. This is not going to be we need to talk about Kevin's or the movie with Jenny Ortega or, all the other films out there. I think, Andrea, you were saying one called Mass. This is not your typical one. And to be honest, it made sense the longer you read into it. I take things literally, and I had to do a double take when you pointed out the Second Amendment, because I was like, oh, this is not the rhetoric that they give you every time there is a shooting, every time someone starts talking about sensible gun laws. That's not what's written there. And to be honest, it feels wrong to say, but I did enjoy the book for that reason. It was just a different take, and I really thought it was done well.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Yes.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, it was a tough subject, and it was early in the book. We talk about the actual perpetrator, a kid named Austin McGurk, who'd been bullied his whole life,
right,
and terribly bullied.
Mm-hmm.
And some people say I built up some empathy for him, even though I didn't excuse him.
Right.
But there are, it's like the butterfly effects. If you brutally bully someone in high school, something's going to snap.
Yeah.
And the bully, I think, has some responsibility for what happened, not as much as the actual person who did it, but we have to learn to act more like a community than than like we have, like we're all competitors in a zero-sum game, I guess,
Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions?
No, and again, I did want to point that out. I didn't write it down in my notes, but I love the fact that you gave all those sides, and I think that when we start forgetting the other person's humanity, that's when things like this happen. Again, not to excuse Austin, but you don't know what's going on. You don't know what happens, and it's the same thing with the bully, and it's the same thing with all the other characters. When you forget the humanity with the characters that surround you, that's when awful things start or happen. So I wanted to share, I thought, all of this was rooted in real life. I have to say the only unrealistic premise that I found, this is my opinion, in the book, was that you had a Hispanic woman president.
I loved it,
and being that I am Hispanic, I hope to one day see that in my lifetime, but I don't know. But I say all that to say,
it could happen.
I hope. I really do. I really do. We're not going to talk about what's going on.
Okay, but whatever.
No, and the reason I asked this, was it intentional that you chose a woman for the presidency? Was it, do you see having men as a president that this is the reason that we haven't seen any change? Do you think that if we have a woman president, that we
We'd
could
certainly be
possibly
better
see
off
change?
now.
I agree. I agree.
My opinion. But no, I mean, I think we are, to use a cliche term, a melting pot.
Yeah.
And everything I do every day. Some of my best friends, one of my closest friends is an immigrant from Brazil. I mean, years ago. You do anything. You go to, at least near where I live, which is sort of suburban Connecticut.
Yeah.
It is multi-ethnic society. So why not, in this hypothetical world, have a female Hispanic president?
Yes.
And excuse me.
Yes. So
Obviously, I think being a male, I can confess that most women are more empathetic than most men. And they bring a sense of nurturance, I guess. So,
yeah, I did like it. I did enjoy dreaming that part, but I do agree. I think that we would see a level of change, a level of courage that we might not see, that we don't see otherwise. So, yeah. Andrea, what you got?
Well, I tell you what, I'm not going to. I loved the president, by the way. Thank you.
Yes, I love the president too.
I did too. I did too.
And was glad that you made that choice, because that was one of my questions. Why did you make that choice? But I like it. I like it. I don't have a lot of questions about the book, because it's difficult to talk about your book and not give certain things away.
Sure.
Because it definitely, to me, it was a page turner.
Yes.
And the fact that you hit on the different areas the way that you did, because there are not a lot of books that are going to deal with, okay, what did this kid, what were they really going through? We try to look at the home and, well, what were his parents like and all of that, but the bullying and the level of bullying that is going on in the school system today, that you were able to bring life to in the book, I think is commendable, because it's difficult. It's hard. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to hear what was really happening. And even in the book, when they saw what this child was going through, they were all shocked, and that shock, that dealing with grief, that looking at the Second Amendment from a different perspective than we probably have before. I think those are all of the things that make this a captivating. I like that better than exciting. A captivating story. And one that, I'm going to take your tagline, Victoria. I think everybody needs to get this book. It is not a reading for entertainment necessarily book. It is something that is going to make you think. It is going to make you think about some things that you may never have considered before. It may lead you to act and want to do something. It's not something that you kind of can put blinders on. The book, just the story, will not allow you to do that. And that's just my opinion. I couldn't walk away without being convicted in some way, in terms of thinking, what have I done? Because this is definitely not, a first. What have I done? And what will I do?
Right.
And what can I do? So I really, really applaud you for approaching it from that angle, for being clear on those points. And I want you to go to the book.
Okay.
We had talked with you in the beginning about sharing and reading to us a section or an area or wherever you want to land to read to us from the story. And
Okay.
I want to make sure that you have time to do that.
Okay, so I'm going to read a little from the first chapter, sort of the end of the first chapter. And the setup is it follows a day in the life of Speaker of the House, Fred Graham, who is very conservative from the state of Kansas. He sort of looks like that guy in the American Gothic picture. And he's going through a busy day. Same day, there's some anti-gun protests going on in Washington, but there's protests every day, so it really doesn't affect him that much. So, and you'll learn previously, and that's going to be shown as a flashback a little later in the book. He had been the parents of the Bushy Ridge children who were murdered, youth that were murdered, had tried to lobby him, and he wouldn't see them. Okay, so we're in a day in the life of the Speaker of the House. The day was a grueling one for Grantham. After his visit to the floor, he did several TV interviews in the rotunda, met the California Republican contingent for lunch in a private dining room, made a dozen calls to donors back at his office, an act he purely despised, and at about 4:30 rode off to the ABC News Bureau on DeSalle Street to record another interview. Once the interview was complete, he rode back in a limousine with Lucchese, who was his Capitol Police bodyguard, at his side. When they were dropped off at the South Capitol garage, he joined Lucchese in the bodyguard's silver Rogue. Grantham had one more appointment that evening. One sec. As usual, on most Tuesdays and Thursdays, Lucchese left Grantham in an apartment building on Connecticut and Ordway in the Cleveland Park section of D.C., and then parked his Rogue at a strip mall up the street. After that, Lucchese regularly popped into a restaurant and sports bar named Hugo's, almost directly across from the apartment building. Normally, between an hour and 15 minutes later, Lucchese would receive a text from the speaker, exit the restaurant, and pull his car around to the apartment building where he would retrieve Grantham. He would return him to the garage at the Longworth office building, from where, on most nights, Grantham would drive himself home in his tan Cadillac. But on this night, Lucchese never received that text. It could have been that he was preoccupied with the attractive blonde he had met at the bar, but later he would discover it was a result of his cell phone not working properly. Not realizing his text was never received, Grantham left his appointment in apartment 1F and proceeded down the hallway. When he reached the inner door to the front vestibule, he saw a middle-aged woman in yoga pants shuffling through her mail while simultaneously chatting on the phone, as well as two nondescript-looking men in business attire, one white, one black, at the mailboxes. As the woman in yoga pants approached the door, still chatting on her phone, Grantham opened it for her. After she passed him, he walked briskly through the vestibule to meet Lucchese outside. When he rushed by the two men at the mailboxes and grasped for the front door, "Mr. Speaker?" Grantham looked back. The two of them stepped toward him. "I think you should come with us," the white guy said calmly. They each opened the side of their jackets, revealing their weapons. "What?" Grantham exclaimed. Shocked, he had no choice but to comply with the two men. Flanked by one on each side, he silently marched with them out the vestibule and down the building's front walkway towards a limousine parked on the street. As the door slammed, the limo pulled off down Connecticut Avenue. Typically, Grantham's self-confidence bordered on arrogance. For years, he'd held the upper hand in almost any exchange he was party to. He would be the one giving the commands, and everyone else had better listen or else they would be gone. Or worse yet, chastised insufferably. Instinctively, Grantham treated his captors no different than he treated his staffers. If you're the damn KGB, you can tell your goddamn boss will hang his ass out to dry in the middle of Red Square if he tries to mess with us. We're not, the black guy answered. So let's get to it already. I don't have much time. What is it you want from me? Not much, really, the white guy said. What? We're not here to hurt you. We're not here to keep you for days or weeks or months even. We're just here to talk to you. Talk to me about what? Grantham snapped. When we tried, really tried peacefully, you wouldn't give us the time of day. Oh, but now we're going to make sure you give us all the time we need for as little or as long as it takes. Who the hell are you? Grantham snapped again, his face reddening. We're the parents of the kids killed in Brushy Ridge, the ones who died because of stupid laws that allow any 18-year-old to buy a gun without a background check. We call ourselves the Brushy Ridge Militia. So that's the beginning.
Powerful.
Yes.
Powerful. Did you make the decision to kidnap the speaker?
Yeah.
As opposed to taking another position or getting attention for the Second Amendment in a different way? What made you decide on taking Grantham hostage?
Well, it all has to do with civil disobedience. And, sometimes things get so bad that going through the system doesn't help you. And look, there's been how many shootings in the last 10 years?
Right.
Everybody tries to go through the system and nothing happens.
Right.
So, as I studied the Constitution, in preparation for writing this book, the whole history of the United States is a history of civil disobedience. We started with a bunch of people up in Boston getting ticked off at King George, and they threw tea off the side of a boat. That's civil disobedience. And that was probably one of the most important events in the history of the United States. And, because it sort of started the fomenting of revolution.
Right.
Rosa Parks, very brave woman, got arrested for just sitting in the front of a bus. How stupid a rule was that?
Right.
So I like the act of civil disobedience. They could have gone on and addressed the Second Amendment in some other way, I suppose, but this was the effective way to do it. And they meant the guy, they weren't going to shoot him. Okay. It was, they just wanted to talk to them. And, they make the case that they were a militia protecting the people from a tyrannical federal government. And they said what he did to them was tyrannical. Right. Because if they were lobbyists with, boatloads of money coming into his office to pay for his campaign, he would certainly sit
all the time in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we live in a world where, unfortunately, in today's world with Citizens United, people can buy the protection they want or the legislation they want. And that was one of, I think, the motivations for writing it, is because these people, they don't have deep pockets necessarily, but they have passion and they have deep feelings instead of deep pockets.
Yeah.
And they wanted to change things for the better.
Yeah. I like it. I like the way that you have written it. And I really, really like that choice, that the choice that you made to bring some humanity to it, so that it's just not, the same thing over and over. We've heard it before. And I think even one of the characters in the story was saying, it's like, how many times can you say, I'm sorry, I'm praying for
thoughts and prayers,
Right.
Here in our thoughts, here in our prayers. Yeah. How many times can you say that without something happening, actually happening that makes the change? I'm turning it over to Victoria. I'm get tied up in it.
Well, my co-hosts have asked wonderful questions, and sometimes they take my questions. But I wanted to say that I loved the book myself. I know I watched too much Criminal Minds because I love the what you read was right on point. And right the part that you read, when I read it, I was like, wow, now we're getting somewhere. What are they gonna do? Are they gonna torture him? Are they gonna I won't give away too much of that, but I was like, wow, this book was really good. But even without that part, I just felt that the emotion that you captured, you are a wonderful writer.
Thank you.
Really, you are. And I am just awed and was reading your bio. I was like, how do you go from doing ads to such an in-depth book like this? This is it's just it captured the emotions. And I was telling you before we got on air that I teared up a little bit just reading. I think Ernie Kovac
Wilcox.
Wilcox. Ernie Wilcox, his character really made me tear up the most.
No, he
Yes,
was a
yeah, go ahead.
he was a great athlete who got injured, went into
Yes.
the army, and had very bad PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And then his son, who was sort of um, taking over for him as a great athlete at the same high school, gets shot. And there was one scene in the book where they're in this van where they're holding Grantham,
Mm-hmm.
where he mentions that he served and he goes, "Thank you for your service." And he goes onto a big rant about, "You're thanking me for my service? This is what you gave to me." I won't, well, I don't even know it by heart. But no, I really enjoyed writing that part. So,
Well, you really captured emotions, and you got me. Well, anything, I tear up. The cat hurt itself. I'm gonna cry. But did you intentionally want your readers to feel, to decide within themselves whether the militia was right or wrong? Is that your intention of what you wrote?
well, it was sort of in a gray area. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you leave things in a gray area, it engages the reader in a way that they couldn't be engaged if things were more black and white.
Right.
Um, it is a little bit of there's moral ambiguity, yeah, but you can make a great case for they tried everything the right way, and they run into roadblocks because
Right.
in many ways the system is rigged,
Yeah.
and they had no other choice. I mean, Rosa Parks didn't have to get up in that bus. She got arrested. I see the mugshots all over the place if you ever study that. Um, Martin Luther King didn't have to walk across that bridge,
Right.
but because they broke what was the law at the time, I suppose, people are better off today.
Yeah.
So civil disobedience is part of our culture.
Well, you just certainly captured it in the book. Do you, when I'm gonna ask a question about your writing style, are you a person who writes by outline? We talk about that sometime here on Authors Up. Like some people could just sit and write. And how did you formulate the story? Did you do an outline, or did you just had what we call divine downloads, where you just sat and it just came to you? How was
Uh,
your writing process?
I don't like doing outlines. And I once asked a pretty famous author at a writers' conference if he outlined. He said no.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have to know the beginning, the middle, and the end generally.
Mm-hmm.
But I think without having an outline, the story unfolds organically because in your head, like, you'll be in the shower or on the treadmill or in your car, and all of a sudden you say, what if this happens?
Yes.
And it might go in a slightly different direction, but you could always get it back on track. And yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to know the beginning, the middle, and the end. But
Okay.
to outline it too precisely, I think is a little and it works for some people, but I think it's a little too, for me, too stifling.
Right. Well, it actually worked for you, I think, in this case. So at what point did you know that the militia really wouldn't hurt Grantham? Did you know that in the beginning, or you just kind of
It was never intended
okay,
because,
never intended. Okay.
in my mind, because then they'd be
There's a whole
somewhat hypocrites, because then they used guns to get their way. But all
Exactly.
they did was have guns so that they can call themselves a militia, and they had to take training, so they were well regulated, and so there was, there was no way that they couldn't say they weren't a well regulated militia. So, and it goes back to what that teacher said at Parkland. How was he well regulated? What militia was he a part of? Because that's what it meant back then.
Well, I just think it's a wonderful book, and I'm gonna tell our audience again: get the book, get the book. It is a wonderful story. It is a thought-provoking story. I think that you've done a fabulous job with it. It is a page turner. It kept me interested from the first page, and I am very, very glad that you were able to come on our show, talk about it, and it just thrilled me to hear you speak. Read the book in your own words, and it made it come more live for me. So I thank you for being here. Would you tell our listeners? Oh, go ahead. You have something?
But maybe this is sort of the same thing. But if there are any book groups or members of book groups who are listening or watching, if you want to read the book, I'll send you up to 6 copies, and I'll also do a Zoom call with you.
awesome.
So, I mean, and I mean, if I get 100 groups, I can't send 6 to either, but I don't think I will, but I'd like to get a few. So, so please do. But then I interrupted you. So
no, I was actually going to ask you, how well has the book done? And then I was going to ask, how can our viewers and our listeners get in touch with you? Where can they get the book from? That kind of thing.
Well, the book's on Amazon, and it has 90 reviews on Amazon, and it's at 4.5. And on Goodreads, it has 55 reviews, and it's at 4.7. So it's doing very well review-wise.
Good.
I do run free promotions sometimes, and every time I do, it's #1 on contemporary American fiction on Amazon.
Awesome.
So it's doing well. I wish someone in Hollywood would read it, but whatever. And there's a website. It's bushyridgemilitia.com.
Okay.
And it's the name of the book without the in front. So just bushyridgemilitia.com. And you can contact me through there. There's a contact form.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. So such a pleasure to have had you.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Roger, I tell you, this is a good book club book.
I would think so, yeah, because it could provoke a lot of discussion.
Yes, it really is. And we will encourage that, and we will be sure to put that out there and to mention that, and to hopefully garner some more interest on a different level than there's been before. Because this is an important issue. It's a very important issue, and like I said, it's not one that you can put blinders on and continue to act like it isn't happening, because it is. And I just thank you for being diligent enough and dedicated enough to write such a story, because there are parts in it where it's a tough read, but there are other parts in it where it's such a necessary read. Yes. And we're just glad that you had the guts to put it on paper, sir. We applaud you for that.
I mean, without authenticity, a book is not a book.
Mm-hmm.
True.
You got to be authentic, and I tried to be.
Yes,
you did. You succeeded.
You succeeded. Well, I tell you, our time is up for the evening. We do appreciate you being with us, Roger. Appreciate your book. We thank those of you who have tuned in, who have listened in, who are here with us live. We will replay this episode of Authors Up on Saturday evenings at 7 p.m. So those of you who may have missed the beginning of the interview or did not have an opportunity, those of you who work in the schools, those of you who are interested in this subject matter or know someone who is, be sure to tell them to tune in to Authors Up on Saturday evening at 7 p.m. so that they can hear the whole interview that we did with Roger this evening. Anything that you want to tell us and share with us, whether it's a book, an author, a topic, be sure to go to authorsupshow.com. You can find all the information that you need about us and about what we're doing here. And we would appreciate hearing from you. We would love for that to happen. So that is it for us for tonight. Again, Roger, can't thank you enough. We're very, very happy that you were with us this evening and had an opportunity to share. And just hang in there. We'll be right back with you after we close out the program. So that's all. That's all we have for tonight. You all know if anybody has been with us any length of time, you know that anything can happen when you tune in to Authors Up. So don't miss the fun. Don't miss the surprises. Don't miss the next author that we may have and the story that they want to tell. Be sure to hang in there with us, hang out with us, and we will see you back here on Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for another edition of Authors Up.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Bronze Girls.
Thank you.
Good night.